everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of Attack Productions. Today I back up joined once again by Jake, and Nick's here. I mean, he's playing Destiny though.
What's going on, y'all?
God damn it, I died.
That's what you get. And today's matchup is me versus Jake. So Jake was already on this earlier this week, but like literally, I think no matter what I did as a setup for this last round, someone was repeating themselves. And I did want to showcase this deck because I got a medal from TCG Medals, and it's the SS3 Son Goku, so I decided to build that deck because why not? Actually, I've never actually played the SS3 Goku, so I'm super excited for this. And Jake's playing Traitor Dende because he won one time with it.
Yeah, that's actually exactly why.
We also got our kind of like, if you're familiar with JoJo, we got our stands with us. Mine is the Ancient Mew. His is a Rad Dude.
Yeah, it's a Rad Dude card from the 90s. This is a Handplant Hank, I think.
Yeah.
So that is one Rad Dude.
So starting off, getting 2 balls in your life.
Wow.
It's a little bit rough, but it's about average.
That is true. So going this match, I knew you could drop a lot of cards pretty quick. I'm playing more defensive build SS3. Now, of course, building this deck, I was thinking of a lot of other ways of going it, but I had a little amount of time to put this stuff together. And I'm just trying to see if you happen to have burst any of your key cards yet to kind of get an idea of what to do, what to charge. And I feel like I don't think I'm going to need... Well, if I recall correctly, based on what I remember, you playing a card, I feel like charging the extra card might be the best, and keep cards in my hand that are more beneficial for you to play would help me out more.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you know that I'm going to be ripping cards out of your hand and forcing them to the board, like putting something that you want to play later in the game in your energy is fine, especially if you play like the Zeno super combos and you can dig them back out, and like your energy becomes kind of a safe zone that lets you play around Clan of Terror.
And getting the week on turn 2 always feels good. And getting to play this card. And here I'm like, all right, cool. Here's your options, buddy. Now, you could have played the Bardock Ape card only actually gets to draw when it's played from the energy. But I think you end up choosing the Zeno compared to the other options because like either allow me to draw 2 cards or draw 1 card.
Yeah, I mean, I made a very similar play in my match against Jimmy, and it's really enticing to rip super combos with Clan of Terror, but looking back, maybe that Bardock Ape was the right play, and then just run Clan of Terror into it and combo Tagoma off. Like, knowing what else was in your hand, there wasn't much you really would want to combo to save it.
Yeah.
And I probably would have got to kill it essentially for free, and then just spent the rest of my turn developing my board further.
You talking about the Bardock Ape?
Yeah.
And so I went ahead and charged Bardock Ape, and this is, I feel like of all the RNGs, this is the most annoying one. So on my first swing, I charged a hit. On my second swing, I charge my other hit, which are like the cards I was banking on using against you, because every cards really have a form of protection.
No.
So I could literally bounce one and then choose another one on the board to bounce it, and then make you have to lose. I mean, initially you'll be using your free desire card that played them from your field, or sorry, from your drop, but then you lose out on any other resources you have on the board. Now, granted, they go back to your hand for you to combo off later, but you do lose an extra card in that process.
Yeah, and the hand is actually the clunkiest place for these 4-drop freezes to be. If they're in my deck, I can rip them out of the deck straight to the drop area with Revenge in Motion. If they're in the drop area, I can play them for free.
Yeah.
I mean, the warp is the warp. I'm not getting them back, but all warp excluded from the conversation. The hand is actually a really clunky place for them to be, which is why I include things in the deck like the Gogeta Unison that'll let me basically trade them out for 2 other cards because they are so clunky in the hand.
And we talked about this during I think after our match, but the mindset of just using super combos now is because if you played another 4-drop, I wouldn't be able to use that card. But in this case, you did swing first, so I could have super comboed here instead of doing it during my offensive play, but I didn't want to risk you establishing a card and then forcing me to just play the super combo and losing out on the draws for it.
Yeah, I mean, by going to 25 here, either way, I'm enticing you to play the super combo, whether it's because I'm attacking with a decently high number or because you're worried I'm going to rip it out with the subsequent Frieza.
Yeah.
So, like, my plan here after seeing your hand earlier is to just try and dig out as many of those resources as I can.
Mm-hmm. And here you do establish, and I kind of explain, no, yeah, as a reminder, you could do this if you want to, or you could play these other 4 cards.
Like, the Vegeta probably would have been a nice play had you not had a second copy.
Yeah.
But you having 2 copies really just shows me that I'm going to eventually have to play through that effect. So at this juncture, I'm just going to go ahead and try and get the most powerful thing in your hand out that I can, which is this 8.
And I just bottom deck the card you played. But
which, yeah. As we talked about before, I really don't care if they go back to the deck. It's kind of just reloading them for me, as long as I can draw into a Frieza Revenge in motion. And then here, getting the double strike dual attack is pretty scary if you don't have 2 Vegeta ready to rumbles.
Yeah. Now, I will say, in this situation where you can no longer dig through, well, you can still do the 1-drop Takomas pull one from drop and deck.
Yeah, drop or deck.
Okay, so you could reshuffle your deck to cycle those cards back up to the top potentially.
Exactly. If I want to just straight draw them.
Yeah. So this is a tough decision, like where I've been forced to play cards and then do other things. I'm coming to a tight situation where do I charge, do I not charge right now? Because like every card in my hand, I feel like is really good and can benefit me in one degree or another. And I think I opt eventually just not charging this turn. Because like I just want to maintain what I have in fear of you just playing a card. I want to make sure I was ready to go.
Yeah.
Because I almost charged a Dimension Magic, I think.
Yeah, that would be an interesting choice too, because it's one of the few cards that I can't rip. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's smart not to charge there.
So just normal swings here. Just trying to go into what I can. You tap on my blocker. I'm like, okay, cool, it's fine.
And for me, that was more like preparing for next turn rather than worrying about the swing from it.
Okay, there it is. I was like, I thought I had a card to play this turn. I couldn't remember if I did or didn't. So I ended up, I paid 3 for 18, or I play 4 for Murray Champ. That's the question. I think this is where I wish. I think I drew Murray Champ off the leader swing, and I'm like, well, shit. Now I wish I would have charged a card, because then I would have, an open energy still going into your next turn with 4 open energy instead of 3 open energy. I had to work around that. So you see an extra card, that's fine. It's still a 20 double strike here. And should be told, I was hoping you wouldn't negate to potentially use the super combo on top of this card, just to get out of my hand so you're not playing it during my turn. But you do follow up with negate, because I forgot to use it during my leader swing.
Yeah, once I realized that it pretty much locks you up for the rest of the turn, I'm okay with spending the robot here. And this Maricham actually doesn't get to restand, oddly enough. Like you would expect it to, because you hit that extra card off the top.
You do play a lot more extra cards in this deck when it comes to your desires.
And most of the battle cards just go straight to the drop area.
So here I go ahead and get out of the way before you could, potentially play a card to cause me to drop it. But thinking back on it, maybe using Dimension Magic first would have been better, but like I said, I was afraid that you would just had to establish a peek at my hand.
Yeah. At this stage, like maybe I could do that play by like swinging and comboing the Clan of Terror off from the board and then playing it again with a Desire.
Mm-hmm.
But after you bottom deck the other one, I think then you see there's a copy in my energy. This is the only copy that I have to like really cycle with right now.
Yeah. And establishing they're ready to rumble just helps me at this point now, because you lose out, potentially you lose out on 2 more attacks. And I just realized that not charging kind of put us back on an even pace again.
Yeah, and it gets a little bit dangerous for you, even though you're in blue, where you get to restand energy. Where I'm just straight up not spending it. It's difficult to really say who's getting like better value. Although now you're going to be picking back up.
And establishing finally the Majin Buu allows me to restand 4 cards potentially by your turn, because it's 3 into my turn, 1 at the beginning of your turn.
Yeah, this is a really big problem for this deck. We talked about it a little bit in my game against Jimmy, but this Majin Buu Unison is a huge roadblock for my game plan, and when it hits the table, I pretty much have to put everything into it.
And it doesn't help that, like, so once again, it's blue, I get to restand 3. Now 4 energy going into my next turn, potentially with 5 energy, with 2 other blockers on board as well. So you do start out with a single swing, and I do feel comfortable taking that hit. Don't have many negates anymore in my hand. I do have 1, but I'm kind of holding off on it right now to see if I can push past this turn and just use it on a future turn.
Yeah, I feel like the game is starting to get a little bit out of control for me, and I'm really trying to push my advantage here. And I'm hoping to get through some of these blocks, but when you're spending cards from your hand, you're kind of I'm kind of realizing that you're realizing the gravity of this turn, and it's making it difficult for me to decide how I want to continue the play line.
And not choosing to send your Tagoma back to your hand doesn't allow you to reestablish another Desire card into your hand, and counterplaying the freeze before it comes into play was very good as well on my part. And we talked about how, like, I was like, okay, cool, got a response, and you kind of had already begun pulling that card out, because it is, I have to call it as a blind. I think you said afterwards, like, oh, I should have picked something different then. I'm like,
yeah, I should have grabbed the Deadly Defender Frieza out of my drop area here, because it's a 0-5 combo, and the effect might actually end up being relevant in this board setup where there's a lot of 20Ks, but I don't have to put that much into defending him if I want him to soak up more than 1 attack. So once I realized that you were God sealing my play, it would have been better to slow down a little bit and just pick a different card.
and here I think you begin, you do begin swinging to my leader, but I don't want to get into double strike range. So that's why I feel comfortable starting to use the blockers, and you aren't using resources from your hand, because I feel like even though I think I have 4 or 5 cards in my hand, you're not in a very high hand. Like, you have a good hand, but it's not like super high in card values. So I think holding off on that was kind of smart, even though you're reestablishing me 2 blockers every turn.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to do, like I was talking about earlier, with this big Majin Buu on the board, and this Golden Frieza is just one of the better ways to clean up boards and deal with things that are removing your cards by skills. Tapping out here normally would be pretty scary, but I'm going to get the buff from the Gogeta Unison, and I'm going to start pressuring things on your table. Here I probably should have attacked the Boo instead of the Murray-Chim, but you've gotten so much value out of the Murray-Chim at this point, I'm just trying to stop the bleeding.
Yeah, and here I'm debating, do I allow the attack go through? And then if I want to keep it, expend cards, or am I comfortable with tapping 3 cards to negate? And then you just keeping 2 cards tapped down, which in this case either be 2 energy, or my leader, because it doesn't affect unisons, and my other 2 battle cards have barriers, so they're unaffected by that.
Yeah, I think I could choose a unison, but your unison's an active mode.
Oh, yes, sorry, yes.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter because you'll get to restand it from its effect anyway. So.
And here I'm just kind of going over realizing that, like, it only goes until the end of my turn. So if I use my energy wisely this turn, I can still go into your next turn with 5 or even 6 energy because Boo resands at the start of your turn, where my leader is at the end of my turn.
Yeah, it's just one of those weird interactions. Speaking of weird interactions, how do you feel about this 18? It doesn't really get used a lot, but I feel like you played it to a really good effectiveness.
In a deck that restands 3 energy at the end of my turn, I'm establishing a 20k blocker that draws me 2 cards, and then I get that energy back. So I felt like it was pretty nice. And I did look into other builds prior to building this, and I saw people running attack. I'm like, oh yeah, that card does exist.
Yeah, I like that tech a lot.
And here I'm just trying to get you to either use one of the blockers, that way I can follow up with one of your with one of my double strikes or triple strikes afterwards. And I think I'm looking for a dice because you had a super combo thing on top of your deck, so now it's a 25k going to, in all my cards here kind of get past that buff you're getting, which feels good on my part. That way, if you want to protect them, you have to get rid of resources.
Yeah, it's getting to that stage of the game where even the 20k leader just isn't relevant. Like you were talking about, the 18's a 20k, Marichim's 20, Boo's 20. I think Goku's 25.
I think he's 20.
Okay, yeah. So it made it very difficult for me to like sequence my defensive plays this turn, but looking back, I'm kind of proud of how I did it, saving that Frieza for the triple strike.
And at this point, you've gotten pretty low in hand size, so that's why I went ahead and swung the double strike to your unison. That way, you're not gaining any more resources from for your next turn.
Oh yeah, I gladly would have took that 2 damage there because I can see the writing on the wall. Barring from drawing another 5-drop, which you can see there's one in my energy, so that's not gonna happen. I don't know what will dig me out of the hole that I'm in.
And here, because my card's in rest mode, your battle cards do have to swing into it, but there's a point where you know how to kind of get around that. I think you do swing the big boy first, trying to either bank out and negate on my part to keep more cards tapped down or not.
Exactly.
I can't remember if I do negate. I feel like I do. Yeah, I think I'm about to pay 4 for, yeah. Which you choose an energy and my leader again, I think, to keep it tapped.
Yeah, just one less attack I have to worry about.
But here now you're on a different clock where I'm starting to feel comfortable with the way your hand's going. You now, anytime you want to establish a swing, you have to pitch an energy.
Yeah, so it's getting down to the wire, especially with 2 blockers. Even though you've only got 1 energy open, it's blue. So I know I've got a long road ahead of me if I want to end the game this turn.
Yeah.
My hope is that I can force enough attacks out that you spend more negates and I can keep more of your cards locked down. So you can't restand them with like Sensu Bean and Dimension Magic.
I'm waiting for this next couple of turns because I think there's a misplay coming up, actually, the more I'm looking into this. And here you're starting to get swings in. Trying to at least just knock out my unison. So you're not expending a lot of resources from your own hand. But it is taking cards from your energy to do that. And here you activate Successor. This is the misplay because you don't have 5 energy.
Oh,
you started
yeah,
the turn
it's
with
turn 5. Yeah.
So we started the turn off with you having 5 energy. So when you played this card, I was like, oh, okay, so that's 3 cards, right? Like, no, I get to pick. But looking back on it, this is definitely a misplay.
Yeah. Unfortunately for me, it ends up not being that big of a deal.
Mhm.
Because you we'll see here in a second. You still got the -1 on Boo.
This is the super combo on your Gogeta, and I was like, oh wait, I still have to put a card down, so never mind. But yeah, I just did the -1 on the Boo instead.
Yeah, and Cell should actually be removed from the game, but I'm pretty sure I'm dead here.
Mm-hmm. Well, so you told me to just swing, and I'm like, well, I want to just do the activate main because it's the activate main, and you're like, all right, now you're gonna work for it. I'm like, wait, what? So you negate it. You have a blocker. I'm forcing you not to use the blocker. With another swing. I don't remember what you choose actually because I restood the leader.
I can still super combo. Yeah. Even if I did choose the leader and it got restood, there was no way I was surviving that.
Yeah, there's still.
But that's interesting to think about. Cell doesn't care what turn it is. You need 5 energy.
Correct.
And since the way I played my turn, I wouldn't have got the effect there. I didn't think about that.
So, with that being said, thank you for tuning in. Keep in mind, there's buttons down below and on the screen. I know Nick was silent the entire time, but hey, we still enjoyed his company. Jake, would you lead us off?
All I can say is remember to read your cards, know your plays, and I guess think about them critically. Like, that's a really interesting interaction that I wouldn't have thought about normally. Let us make the mistakes so that you don't have to, and fluff out.